Because I'm a sucker for a good deal and apparently way too loose with my wallet, I was browsing the Microsoft Store on my Xbox One looking for a new game to play, and because we're still a few weeks out from some major releases, I was having somewhat of a hard time. But then I stumbled upon a game that looked incredibly unique, a game called Skully, by an indie game studio called Finish Line Games. After doing a bit of research, I discovered that Finish Line Games has only put out a handful of really small titles, but their publisher, Modus, has made a few games that seem to be rather ambitious in scope and have received strong reviews from critics in the past. But can their August 2020 release of Skully compare to their previous successes? Welcome to Buy It or Pass It, the show where we look at upcoming or newly released games and I let you know if you should spend your hard-earned dollar signs on them and buy it, or leave it on the shelf and pass it. Let's get started. First, let's start off with this game's visuals. I really feel that Finish Line found a nice mix to blend the realism of the environments with somewhat cartoony character models. This actually works really well. The characters look like they belong in these environments and have really cool designs. Skully is obviously just a skull wrapped in clay, but his design is rather dynamic in that he'll change when his health status changes. For example, if you roll into a puddle or any kind of water, the clay will wash away and you'll be left with his skull barely covered in any mud. The other forms that you get to play as, and that we'll talk about more later, also have rather unique designs. I really hope they come out with a few pop figures or something for these characters, as I think that they would look really cool. The environments themselves also succeed at being really lush, or at being more worn down and dark when the game's story calls for it. The story is actually pretty interesting, and without getting into spoiler territory, 4 godlike siblings with environmental powers once ruled over an island together in harmony, but then something split them up and now they all rule separately. You'll play alongside the god Terry, who is in control of rocks and mud. You and Terry will be responsible for adventuring around the island, trying to convince his siblings that they need to be working together. I'd say that the voice acting in this game is better than a lot of indie titles voice acting out there. Don't get me wrong, it's still incredibly cheesy at times, but there are moments where the voice acting is really funny and where the characters really do seem alive. While the voice acting might feel somewhat generic at times, Skully makes up for it in its gameplay. Through the game, you'll be mostly playing as a skull wrapped in a ball of mud named Skully. You'll be tasked with rolling around the environment, attacking enemies, solving puzzles, and collecting seeds. Unfortunately, the seeds don't really add anything to the overall gameplay, as when you collect them, the only thing you really unlock is additional concept art or extras accessible from the game's menu. The rolling around is really a lot of fun, and it is the game's brightest spot in my opinion. It reminded me of a game that I used to play a ton. I have no idea if anyone will remember this, but there was a game way back in the day that I downloaded from the Xbox Live Arcade on my 360 called Marble Blast Ultra. The game was a ton of fun to play and really introduced a lot of cool platforming physics and areas with lots of speed. Skully reminds me of Marble Blast Ultra quite a bit, which is funny because the developer Modus has also made a marble game franchise of their own called Rock of Ages, which has also received very positive reviews in the past. Anyway, let's get back to Skully. The overwhelming majority of the game is spent in marble form. As I mentioned, this is a lot of fun and can make for some interesting situations where it's best to use the marble's speed to get around a bend without falling off or to quickly get around enemies. However, I really wish the game took better advantage of Skully's marble form. It doesn't seem like enough of these levels were really designed to take advantage of the marble's unique speed and mobility. Some of these areas do exist, but they're not nearly frequent enough in my opinion. The game is also rather inconsistent with checkpoints. At times it feels like the game really puts you through the ringer and you'll have to cover a ton of ground before a checkpoint shows up. Other times it feels like there's a checkpoint around every corner. But don't let these two negatives turn your opinion sour. The platforming is still a lot of fun. There's times where it achieves the perfect balance of difficulty and keeps the game fresh by introducing new hazards. While Skully does progress in a rather linear fashion, the game also has quite a bit to offer in terms of exploration, often giving you a variety of paths that you can explore while on the way to your objective. You won't be spending 100% of your time in marble form. Throughout every level, there are clay pools that Skully can roll into and transform into a variety of really cool creatures with their own unique abilities. One clay form is really strong and can break down walls and fight off enemies. Another is really fast and has the ability to move platforms horizontally, and another has the ability to double jump and move platforms vertically. Playing as these forms is a really nice change of pace and makes the game a lot more accessible to gamers who maybe aren't super interested in Marble-esque games but do enjoy traditional platformers. Those gamers would also be very pleased with just how strong these platforming sections are. While you're platforming, you'll encounter a variety of puzzles. Some puzzles will require you to use a few or all of Skully's forms to solve. Thankfully, the game allows you to control one of Skully's forms, perform an action, eject from the form, and the form will still hold the most recent action. This allows you to use each form in sort of a teamwork situation to accomplish your goals. Ultimately, I'm really glad I stumbled upon Skully. It was a really fun experience and introduced me to an indie developer that I had never heard of. So I'm going to be giving this game a buy it. If you're like me and have enjoyed similar marble games, then you'll definitely enjoy Skully. But if you're not, the game is only $30 and will almost certainly be on sale at some point, so I recommend giving it a look then. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, share this video with your friends, and most importantly, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.